1 2 1 2. I go by the name of DJ What, and you're now listening to the original Jeek podcast. Let's go.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
Fresh.
Making me itch.
What up, Jeeks? My name is Rockin' Mr. Magic, the original Jeek, and this is the original Jeek podcast. I am so glad that you are here with me today, but you are not alone with me today. I know the last couple episodes I've been flying solo, reviewing She-Hulk episodes 1 and 2. Before we review episode 3, however, I've got a guest with me today. We had a great conversation offline, and I can't wait to continue it officially on the show. So I would like you all to welcome with me my guest, Dustin Poindexter.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on the show, Matt. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here.
No, it is my pleasure. I am so glad that you are with me today. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation and definitely want to do this again. But before we move forward, why don't you share how people can find you, your podcast, and etc. on the internet?
Okay. I'm a little bit reticent to tell people what my podcast is just because I haven't put up an episode in like 3 months. So my podcast is Culture Jacked, though. If you want to find me, we're on, the regular podcasters and the regular social medias and whatnot. But mostly I'm excited to talk to someone else about the MCU because on my podcast in the last few episodes that I've done, I also have been writing solo for like the last year, actually. So having a conversation with yourself, as you could probably testify to, Matt, is no easy situation. Your brain doesn't get a chance to take a break. Your mouth doesn't get a chance to take a break. And you just got to go and go and go. Unless, you want to do a lot of editing afterwards, which I don't particularly care for. So, but yeah, that's what I do. And I'm just excited to talk any time about video games, comic book movies, things of a nerdy, geeky persuasion.
Awesome. Well, that's a great tie into generally the first part of our show, which is called What Are You PWC, which is playing, watching, or creating. So offline, you asked me what games I play. So
For sure.
I'll go first to answer your question. So lately, I have been playing not as much as I usually do, but what I generally have been playing is Destiny 2. That's my big game.
Okay.
I play most often. I dabble into some MLB 19 because I don't feel like paying for the newer one, and 19 was free with PlayStation Plus. It gives me my baseball fix.
Sure.
I'm still jumping into WWE 2K22, and I am still playing through a very long level grind in Final Fantasy 12.
Nice. That's one of the best Final Fantasies. I love that one.
Is. I'm trying to get all of my characters to level 99 before I really progress into the story, just to see how overkill it's going to be. Just because I'm that sick. So I've put like, and I'm like a third into the game. Like it's bad.
That's how you should do it. I was level 20 before I left Midgar in Final Fantasy VII back in 1998.
Nice.
So like I know about that grind. That's the way to do it, man.
Yeah. So I have the full party complement, and everybody is level 99 now except for Fran, and she's like 70 something right now. So I've got the embroidered tippet accessory that doubles the XP on her right now, and I'm just trying to grind out in the Thessarian caves to get a lot of high XP kills. And once I finally do that, I'm gonna progress in the story and just pretty much just go OP on everything.
Just cruise. Yeah.
I'm just gonna cruise. Because see, when I first played 12 on the PS2, I was playing through the story, and then I was really getting into the hunts, and I found some of these hunts were like super hard, and I'm like, I am not strong enough to take out some of these monsters. Like, this is crazy. So I started level grinding on that, and I got Von, Balthier, and Bosch really high. And then as I was progressing through the story, I got the Sky Pirate Redis as a guest. And so I was like, hold on, the guest goes wherever I want him to go. I've got 3 guys in 99. Let's do this hunt and see if the guest will come with me. And then he did, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to cast decoy on him. I'm casting bubble on the other 3, and let the monster take out Redis, and we just gonna go ham on this monster. So that's how I started doing hunts, and I was like, oh, okay. So when I got the Zodiac Age version on the PS4, I'm like, that's how I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna grind and grind and grind and get everybody leveled up. And when I had Larsa, I was like, okay, all the bad guys decoy, focus on Larsa so we can get our kills and we get our XP.
So you like Final Fantasy 12?
I like Final Fantasy. Period. I
Period.
own
Okay.
I own every numbered Final Fantasy game. So that's Final Fantasy 1 for NES. I've got them all, and I have them twice because I have the PSP versions as well.
So I want a true marker of the kind of man that you are, Matt. And
Okay.
the biggest question that is, I may have to end my guest appearance here immediately, depending on your answer.
Okay.
What is your opinion of Final Fantasy Tactics?
The War of the Lions?
The War of the Lions.
I absolutely love it.
Okay, all right, okay. We can keep going. We can keep going with this.
Absolutely.
It's so good. It's my favorite. It's my favorite one.
It's in my top 5.
Okay.
Of
Okay.
Final Fantasy games.
What's number 1 for you? Is it 12?
That's a tough one. Wow.
You said top 5. You brought the list out.
I did.
You could have just said it was fine. It was good and moved on, but you labeled it.
I put myself into that. I sure did. Oh man. Tag. All right, I'm not. This is not any particular order because I love Final Fantasy so much. So 12 is in my top 5. Tactics, War of the Lions is in my top 5. And these are not just like what I consider the best, but these are just my favorites to play.
Sure. Yeah.
So 12, Tactics, 1.
Okay.
6, but the SNES version, so the label says Final Fantasy 3, but it's really Final Fantasy 6.
Right.
And then number 5 is probably a surprise, but Crystal Chronicles.
Crystal Chronicles, huh? Okay, I never beat Crystal Chronicles.
I enjoy the heck out of Crystal Chronicles, and I just rebought it on, digitally rebought it on the PS4 because I had the GameCube version, but to preserve my disc, I bought it again, and it's remastered. I enjoy the heck out of Crystal Chronicles. I love it.
Final Fantasy's got such cool lore, man, with like the crystals and stuff, and Sid showing up every time. Like I don't know, it's great. I don't have as much time as I used to play the Final Fantasy games, but
here.
They got that real deep seated nostalgia rose right in the back of my brain, So
absolutely, I'm one of the few people that like all the Final Fantasy movies, including Spirits Within. I love Spirits Within.
It was revolutionary.
It's great. It's beautiful to this day. It came out in 2001. 21 years later, it's still a gorgeous movie.
Yep.
It probably shouldn't have been named Final Fantasy because there was nothing Final Fantasy really about it. But it's still. And I tell people are like, oh, I hate this movie. I said, no. What you hate is that it's named Final Fantasy. Because if you watch this movie and under any different name, you think this movie's great. But because it said Final Fantasy, you expected swords and you expected magic and you expected mages, and your expectations were different from this film. But I love it. I love the Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive movie. I love obviously the Final Fantasy VII. Um,
Remake.
no, well, no, the movie.
Advent Children.
Advent Children. I love
Yep,
Advent
yep, yep.
Children. It's and I'm a big Sephiroth fan. Like that's my guy. Uh, I'm a huge Final Fantasy nerd. I love it. My most listened to album in 2020 was the Final Fantasy, one of the Final Fantasy albums. I think it was one of the concert ones. That was my most listened to for the year. I'm driving around in a yellow Lexus with with a sub in the back, and you might open my car door and you hear you hear an opera from Final Fantasy. I'm a 400-pound black man in a in a dropped Lexus with a system, and you're hearing opera music.
Bum, 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 bum,
Yeah,
bum, bum, bum.
exactly. It's exactly
Excuse me,
what you
sir?
hear when I step out the car. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And I've pretty much enjoyed, if not, can't say loved, but I've enjoyed virtually every Final Fantasy I've played. So yeah, I'm a big Final Fantasy. So what have you been playing lately?
Shoot, I just beat Little Nightmares 2. It's a little
Okay.
isometric horror game. I love the first one. I just beat the second one. I also just beat Midnight Fight Express, which is it's a game
I
by
don't know that one.
the same folks that did my friend Pedro. He was like
Okay.
a side scrolling gun guy, and this one's a lot of fighting in it. And then I just picked it up again. Is Fallout 4. I'm a big fan of the Fallout franchise,
Okay.
and when Fallout 4 came out, I was a little disappointed coming off the heels of New
3
Vegas
of New Vegas. Okay.
because if you played New Vegas, like the role playing was very very strong in New Vegas. You could be anyone. You could be an NCR soldier. You could be a legionnaire. And then Fallout 4 was very like railroady. And
Yes.
one of my favorite things about New Vegas is you could end up killing, sometimes on accident, like
Mhm.
important characters for quests. And
Mm.
so on the side of your screen, it was just be like this quest failed, this quest failed, this quest failed when you accidentally,
We accidentally killed
murdered the
somebody.
wrong person.
Yeah.
In Fallout 4, you can't accidentally murder the wrong person. They just take a
Mm.
knee, and then when the fight's over, they get up and they're like, "Hey, actually, I got something for you to do," And so,
Okay.
but I picked it up again because I don't think I gave it the chance that I needed to,
Mhm.
and I'm really enjoying like the base building aspect of it because you can build bases in Fallout 4. So
Yeah.
those are the ones I'm playing, and I'm watching. I heard you say you were watching She-Hulk. What do you think of She-Hulk so far? I guess I could go listen to your episodes, but that's not for right now.
Yeah. So right now, I am thoroughly enjoying She-Hulk.
Same.
I I have beef with the internet people who do not like She. No,
The
here's
internet people.
yeah, because a bunch of people. This is partially my age, because I get very old man grumpy, get off my lawn for certain things, because no, like, because in my co-host, if he was here, he would be echoing this right now. He'd be like, yeah, Matt is one of those, like, don't mess with my origin story, you know know the source material. I'm very curmudgeonly in that aspect.
Okay.
And I'm
Okay.
trying to get better at it, but I'm very curmudgeonly in that aspect. So I hate it when people want to have a negative critique about something that they don't understand.
Right.
And you have a lot of these casual people who are, the only Marvel exposure they have is the MCU. So because She-Hulk is not as family friendly as some of the previous MCU content was, they're all up in arms. And to that, I'm like, never pick up a She-Hulk comic. If this is too much for you, do not read She-Hulk, because she is a whole thought. She stay naked. She stay cussing people out. She stay knocking people out. Like, do not read a She-Hulk comic. If this is
Right.
if She-Hulk and Meg the Stallion twerking in a mid credits.
Spoiler alert for She-Hulk. Jeez Louise.
Hey, we're about
I
to
know,
hit
I know.
episode 5.
I know.
That's all
Episode
now.
5 coming up.
Yes. I did not give a spoiler warning, y'all, and this is before episode 3, but here's a preview for my episode 3 review. I love the post credit scene. It's funny. It's her and Meg The Stallion twerking. It's funny. And it's very, very She-Hulk. She-Hulk
Mm-hmm.
would be twerk, especially because this run is very reminiscent of the 2004 comic run, especially
Oh, so
episode.
you're very knowledgeable about this comic. I
I
I,
try,
I
yeah,
have a
I try to.
cursory knowledge, but
Yeah, no, I try to be. And 'cause in the my episode 2 recap review, I speak on how the situation is flipped in the show. Because in the comics, GLK and H want Jen Walters to be Jen Walters. They don't want her to practice law as She-Hulk. Where in the show, they want her to practice law as She-Hulk and not as Jen Walters.
right.
So there's a lot of flipping there, but a lot of the story is still very similar. But of that 2004 run, if Meg Thee Stallion was a thing then, they would have had some panels of her twerking with Meg Thee Stallion in 2004.
She'd be in it.
Uh, yeah, she'd be absolutely. Like this is like She-Hulk. Half of She-Hulk. I mean, I think the first issue after they show her graduating from school. The next panel after that is her in bed with some underwear model. Um, you know, like
Get it, Jen. Get it.
yeah, like this is Jennifer Walters we're talking about. Like you clearly don't know this character. So and also Disney now owns, they own the world, but they own, the Fox, movies. And so, they've got Deadpool and Disney Plus. And this is just another bridge to Deadpool type content, to that more adult level content that they're going to be producing, whether people like it or not. This is not going to be, this new Avengers is not going to be, yesterday's Avengers. It's not.
And it
It's going
shouldn't
to,
be.
yeah, and it shouldn't be. It should be
Yeah.
different. It's going to be a bit more raw. It's going to be a bit more adult. Now, as a father, I wish I could watch some more of this stuff more with my kids without having to explain things? Sure, it makes it easier on as
Right.
a parent, but I can't expect everything to be kid friendly, because if I want to hand my kid a comic book, it's not going to be especially a She-Hulk book. It's
Yeah.
not. It's less kid friendly than the show. So I'm like, it's like, come on, people. Like, and the part of the problem is people assume comic books are Archie comics
Right.
or 1930s Superman comics. Like that. There's no language. There's no there's nothing shocking. There's no real life in it. Comic books, especially Marvel, are full of politics, racism, sexism, classism, crime, like real life stuff that you need to talk about, you need to deal with, you need to confront, and it's not Archie and the gang going to the soda shop.
And I'm glad it's not. I'm glad it's not.
Yeah, I mean, and I love Archie. I'm not knocking Archie. If there's any Archie fans getting upset, I love Archie.
You
But-
got Jughead stands out here like, whoa,
Right,
I'm not
Jughead
going to
says,
take
like, hey,
this.
I
you
love
son
my
of a bitch."
hamburgers. Right? Like, no, I love Jughead and his burgers, bro. I have issues of Jughead Time Police, which are rare. Like, I mean, I love Archie, but real life is not Archie. And if anybody watched, Riverside, that show, that it goes completely off the rails of Archie.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't watch that. I was a big Archie comic book fan. Like I had a dresser drawer like full of Archie comics when I was
Me too.
younger. The thing about the comic books, and I'm trying to just start putting this thought together, is the movies and the shows are very similar now in the way that comic books are. That they're not just interconnected. They're different things, and they're exploring different aspects of the universe. And so,
Mhm.
like to expect them all to be very tonally the exact same is a fool's errand.
Absolutely.
It's absolute nonsense and garbage. You should have a silly goofy thing, and you should have these random name drops and random character introductions. We don't need an origin story for anything anymore. Like we could just be like, oh yeah, this is this guy.
Yeah.
He's been in this city doing this thing. Here he is. And all these comics, mixed together in a way that's maybe more amorphous. People have become too married to the idea that all of this is interconnected very rigidly, and it's very, I mean, all the characters are so different tonally, but
Oh, absolutely.
never mind actors and directors and all that nonsense too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm very much enjoying She-Hulk as well.
As much flack and hate as Phase 4 gets, I think it's been fantastic because, WandaVision to me was amazing. Not only for the retro production, because in most of those shows I absolutely adored, like Dick Van Dyke Show, and like I love the homage they paid to those classic TV shows,
That
but
was so good.
the process of grief and lashing out because of your grief, and then the responsibility you have to fix what you did because of your grief and going through that. Um, Visions, um, his battle of with self actualization and reality and what is real and who he is and or he is not. And the ship of Thesis. Are you
Oh, it
kidding me?
was
Like
so good.
I
It
was
was
like
so good.
fantastic writing. Um, we Falcon and Winter Soldier. No one expected that to be a show about racism and classism. No one saw that coming. We thought we were going to get like a buddy cop show, and these two guys were going to go around kicking butt, and it was just going to be fun. No, we got a show about racism and classism and guilt, and dealing with one's past. Uh,
I'm
She-Hulk has been
so
fun.
I'm so excited, not to derail you too much. I'm so excited about
Hmm.
um just the way that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was done, because at the end of Endgame, spoilers for Endgame, I guess.
Shouldn't be, but yeah,
Y-
I guess.
yeah, exactly. He passed the shield off to Sam, right?
Right,
And so going into Captain America 4 that Sam now has the shield. You don't need to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but if you want a lot of extra information, a little more meat to your personal lore that you carry about the MCU, you watch that, then you go into Captain America 4 with like a bigger understanding of what that shield means, what he went through to get it, all the hardships, what representation means in the superhero game.
right,
Like it's so cool that and maybe not all the shows are going to be like that. Like I feel like you need to watch Loki to kind of understand what's going on with the multiverse shit, but
right.
they're just like they're bonus content. When Miss Marvel shows up in one of the movies, if you didn't watch Miss Marvel, well, that's a bummer because it was pretty funny.
It's really
Uh,
fun. Yeah,
but if you didn't, it's just another character, and you get to choose the amount of investment that you want in these series in this
absolutely.
universe. It's so cool. I love it. I love it.
No, it's extremely cool. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, so I've been watching She-Hulk and I love it. I love what Phase 4 is doing. So obviously I've watched every Disney Plus Marvel show. I am watching House of the Dragon.
Okay, I haven't started it. How is it?
It's There's so much going on, bro. Dude. Like there's only one. I don't want to give any spoilers here. It's good. It's good, and it's good because very reminiscent of season 1 of Game of Thrones, in that you can tell that everybody involved cares about this
Okay,
story.
awesome,
So,
good.
and I've always said that the season 7 and 8 suffered because Benioff and the other one, they didn't care. They didn't want to be doing the show anymore. So you could tell they didn't
Mm.
care as much. You can tell the showrunners right now really care about telling this story properly. So far it's been very good. My only struggle right now with it is just watching Matt Smith, because I look at Matt Smith and I see the Doctor, and I look at him and I see the Doctor. I see Doctor Who. I expect him to whip out a sonic screwdriver. Like I'm
Oh, so the actor that plays him
So
is
so so
also
yeah, so the
Doctor Who.
actor that plays Damon Targaryen
Okay.
was the 11th Doctor in Doctor Who. So I look at him and I see the Doctor, and I hear him talk, and I see the Doctor, and it's like I got to break my mind of from that. Um, and then, and that's just a curse that a lot of Doctor Who people that portray the Doctor have, is that everywhere they go after being the Doctor, people they're typecast. They look at them and they just see the Doctor. They don't see the next character.
Did you
And
have a problem with Tennant in Jessica Jones for the same reason?
he,
Wasn't
I
he the
would.
Doctor?
Yes, he was. He was the
Okay.
10th Doctor. Yes. So I would have, except for he did Broadchurch in between Jessica
Oh, okay.
Jones and the Doctor and being in Doctor Who. So that helped me bridge. But when I was watching Broadchurch, I was like, it's the Doctor. And especially because they had people in Broadchurch, multiple people who either were in like the guy that played the vicar in the show, he was in uh was the Matt Smith Doctor. He was in Doctor Who. He was a primary character. And then they had a bunch of people in the show who were guest stars from Doctor Who. So I'm watching a bunch of Doctor Who characters in Broadchurch. So that was really hard to separate.
Gotcha.
And then the current Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, was the mom of the kid who got kidnapped and murdered. So there's so much Doctor Who in that show. But by the time Jessica Jones rolled around, I was used to seeing Tennant outside of
Gotcha.
Doctor Who, so I could take him as Purple Man, and he was fantastic as Purple
That
Man.
was that was really good. I haven't watched any Doctor Who. I'm a complete Doctor Who, virgin.
Mm-hmm.
But I did love Kilgrave in that. I think his name was Kilgrave
Yeah,
in Jessica
Kilgrave. Yep.
Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So good, so creepy, so like,
Tennant's a
ugh.
fantastic actor. He's
Yeah, it
such
was
a
really
talented
good.
guy. Yeah. If you like sci-fi, I always encourage people to watch Doctor Who.
So
It's
if you
not
got
everybody's cup of tea.
if you had a complete newbie like myself, where would you start me in Doctor Who from the very
Oh,
beginning? Because that's like what?
that's
That's like
50
50
years.
years?
It's
Like
50
that's a
plus years.
long time, man.
Well, here's the thing though. When people ask me that question and they say it's a long time, I said that's true. But that's the same question whether you're talking about Star Trek, and I'm a huge Trekkie, and we're talking 40 plus years when you're talking Star Wars. So, like,
True.
you know, it's not alone in that it's got such a long and deep lore. Ah, man,
And
I
then if you
never.
consume it all, like books and everything, then that's
Yeah,
like even
yeah,
more.
books, yeah,
Yeah.
audio specials and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot. If I had, okay, I'm not going to give you. Okay, I'll give you two places.
Two
I'll give you
entry points.
two entry points.
All
Okay,
right.
because okay, so one, no one really recommends starting with Classic Who because obviously the production quality, stories are much different just from the 1960s and 70s and such, and 80s. So no one really recommends starting there. I recommend starting where the show restarted in 2005 with Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor. That's where I recommend starting from there, because that takes you from that season to where we currently are with the
Okay.
13th Doctor in series 13. If I had to give you one episode to watch to feel out if you like Doctor Who,
Okay. Is
it
this
would.
outside that time frame?
So no, so this is going to be series 3.
Okay.
Um, I forget the episode number, but the episode title is called Blink, and this is what most people recommend anybody getting to their first foray of Doctor Who to watch. I don't personally generally make this recommendation because then you have to go backwards to the Ninth Doctor, because this is the 10th Doctor episode.
So
But
season 5, Doctor Who, going forward,
season 9.
season 9.
Yeah,
Okay,
series
gotcha.
9, or they'll call it, if you have HBO Max, it's going to say it as series 1, from 2005.
And then season 3, what was the name of that? What was the name of that episode?
So the name of the episode is Blink. It's season 3, episode 10.
Okay, season 3, episode 10. Yeah, and those are on HBO Max, you said?
Yeah, all I was just watching yesterday.
I
I was watching
absolutely
season
have
1
that.
yesterday, HBO Max.
What's going on at HBO Max anyway? Those guys are doing some crazy stuff right now, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're taking so
Mm,
much stuff off in the
mm.
whole mix with Discovery, which I don't care about anything on Discovery Plus.
I know,
Um,
me neither.
I don't want any of that content. I don't want any of that content. My wife loves Discovery Plus. She'd be watching all those ghost shows and stuff. That's not my cup of tea.
Gross.
Yeah, that's not my cup of tea. She'll be watching, those Love It or Listed, and rebuild this, rebuild that, which I can watch every once in a while. But after that, I'm like, no, I'm good.
So why would a person, no dig against your wife, she likes Street Fighter after all. Why would a
Absolutely.
person choose to watch regular people doing regular things when we have all of this media now of supernatural beings that can fly and read people's minds and transmogrify into other people and stuff? Like, there's actual art and imagination that go into things like Doctor Who and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you're going to watch people take stuff out of a storage closet? Come on. Come on. She likes Street Fighter though, so
Okay,
I'll spare her this time.
so playing devil's advocate.
Oh
Um,
no.
Playing devil's advocate.
He doesn't need one.
That's true. There are certain common reality shows that I would be like. Okay, you mentioned Storage Wars.
Sure.
The first few seasons of Storage Wars, I was all into it. We were watching that. She and I were watching that together. We were going, yep, with annoying Dave. Like, we were into Storage Wars. When it got repetitive and you could tell like things were getting planted in these storage lockers, because I had met people who would go to storage auctions. Like my mother used to rent a storage locker out because she was a pharmaceutical rep, and we would get boxes and boxes sent to the house, and it just became too much for her to store all this Advil and Diamond Tap and Robitussin and stuff in the garage. So she had a storage
Sorry,
locker.
that's a funny image.
No, trust me, I'm talking massive boxes full of display boxes that had a 2-pack, like 42 packs of Cold and Science, 42 packs of Advil, 42 packs of this and that. So, and small bottles of Diamond Tap, small bottles of Robitussin, and there were so many of them that we would keep some in the garage, but most of them she needed to keep in the storage unit. So I had known about storage unit auctions because they were not a big thing, really. 5-6 people would be at them, but when storage wars became a thing and people were, people discovered that people were making money by buying these leftover things and going to swap meets and going to stuff and making money off of, and like the guy Darren, like, that's a true story. The dude found a massive comic book collection that had rare comics in it, and it made him a millionaire. Like, that's a true story. It happened.
Is this the golden? Is this the golden vault that I've heard of?
Yes.
That's the one? Okay.
That's the one. Because
That's
it
crazy.
had Golden Age comics in it, and dude was he got lucky. And storage auctions are about luck. But the show, like, in every episode, they, everyone's pretty much, hitting big, and they're finding some rare item, that's worth X amount of dollars or whatever. It's like, okay, you're obviously planting things in this for
Right.
the
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
continue, because the luck that you hit in that, most of the time you're lucky if you break even when you buy a storage locker.
So when it comes to reality shows like that, just real quick, living in Alaska, we have a bunch of reality shows based off of Alaska. There's the crab boat fishermen, and then there's the snow people, and what?
The driving through Alaska, the ice.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Exactly. So one of the kids that I went to school with, his family had a show, and they live on a homestead, and they're out there, and I can't remember the name of the show, but it's Jules' younger brother.
Okay.
So they they had their show, and they shake the camera a lot, and they go, if we don't get this kill, if we don't bring in this harvest, we're not going to make it through the winter, sort of thing. And my uncle actually confronted one of the guys at the store. He's like, "What is this show? This is nonsense." And he's like, "I know, but they make us, play it up for whatever." So, but yeah, they're not my cup of tea.
No, they're. I mean, most of them are not mine either. But the select few that will every once in a while will suck me in for a time, because there is some reality based into it. It's unfortunately just not all the way, accurate a lot of times. And the house shows get me too because my mother was in real estate when I was younger. So when people buy these houses and flip them and whatever, it's like, you know, uh, I get the appeal, but then after a while, I'm
Right.
like, okay, I'm good. But the ghost
I'm gonna
shows,
go
like,
watch someone fly.
yeah, the ghost shows, I don't, I don't play with the devil like that. I don't get down with it. So, uh,
You're not gonna invite that evil into you, huh?
no, not gonna be able to do it. Not my steez. I don't. I don't. I'm not a horror guy. I'm not. That's not how I get. That's not how I get down.
I'm very scared a lot of the time as well when it comes to those movies. I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, just
I don't want to stay up and pee the bed.
right. Exactly. Well, we are going to transition here into almost to our main topic, which is Thor: Love and Thunder. But before we get there,
Bethor.
but yes, before we get there, Dustin shared with me offline that he used to be a big fan of Olympics gymnastics.
I was when I was in probably the 6th or 7th grade. Rewind to like 96, 97.
Okay.
Uh, both of the Dominiques had my heart.
Dominique Dawes and Dominique Mosciano had your
They
heart.
did. They did.
Yes.
I was crushing over those two young ladies so hard when I was young. And my parents were both gymnasts, not on the Olympic level,
Wow.
mind you, but they did like state level gymnastic athletics and stuff. So they, you know, imbued, I guess they
Yeah.
heavily influenced our life. And so we always had a trampoline in the front yard, and we knew how to tumble and we knew how to flip and stuff. And so yeah, I really, beyond just my schoolboy crush of these
Now,
two young
now
ladies.
the Dominiques, and I can say this now because I was also a teenager at that time, so it's not creepy. The
Us and her.
Dominiques were both very fine, to
Yeah,
my 14-year-old self in 1996.
exactly,
Especially, I mean,
exactly.
and Dominique Dawes is still gorgeous. She's a beautiful woman.
I haven't
Um,
seen any recents of them, but I can guess, they're gymnasts. They're gonna stay in good health probably for a
I
long
haven't seen
time.
any pictures of Mosciano in a long time, but Dawes was actually in my area a few years ago, so I saw pictures of her recently, and yeah, she looks fantastic. She's in great
I
shape.
think the it's pure unadulterated athleticism, and there's a lot of stigma and a lot of scandal that goes on around especially female gymnastics.
It's horrible. As
It
so
is.
so here's something that's funny because child of gymnasts. You remember Kristen Maloney?
The name sounds familiar. I'm not
So
not
she
picking
was
up
on
on it.
Team USA.
Okay.
She was actually from this general area. She was from Penargil, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Um, she trained at the Parkettes, which is a nationally known uh, gymnastics school, which is here in Allentown, Pennsylvania. My little sister actually trained at the Parkettes at the same time that Kristen Maloney was training there,
Oh wow.
and Chris Maloney ended up making the Olympic team, and not performing well, unfortunately, but she did make the Olympic team. She was one of the best. Unfortunately, didn't perform that well, but
Not a
you
lot of
know,
us
you
can say we made the Olympic team though. That's pretty
exactly.
dang cool.
She made the Olympic team. She was an Olympian. Um, but I never realized because watch because I mean because my sister was in it. I mean I watched the Shannon Millers, the Dominique Dawes, the Kim Zemeskals, the Dominique Moscianos, and they looked they looked like regular women. Obviously, it's outside the muscle definition on TV. But going to the parquets and watching my sister train, I didn't realize how tiny gymnasts are. And I'm like, wow, like they are
They're very
small,
very compact characters for
very
sure.
compact people. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Like, and again, I was a basketball player, but I was like, I felt like a literal giant amongst, and then they used to have this dance every year and I had to go. And I'm seeing all these gymnasts, all these petite, not stocky, but petite, stout women, teenage
Hmm.
women, and they've got arms, and they're just like jacked, and I'm like, because they've all got like strapless dresses or whatever, and then all you see is this shoulders of these jacked shoulders and these jacked arms, and it's like,
Yeah,
whoa, it
like
was
you
wild.
look at their arms and like the vascularity in their arms, and you're like, my God,
God, yeah,
the strength that it takes though is
it's
incredible.
phenomenal.
And I the floor routine was one of my favorite, but I also liked the bar, just not
The
not
uneven
the
bars,
not the uneven bars.
the
Shoot,
vault.
it's just
Oh,
the balance,
the
the balance
balance
beam.
beam, the balance beam.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what it was about that. It was like because the tumbling routines, all choreographed, set to music, were all fast paced. There was all these big, huge flips and stuff, and then the balance beam just slowed it way down. And
yes.
I don't know. There was something about the balance
No, the
beam that I was
balance
just
beam is
like,
crazy tough.
it's neat.
Yeah, no, I to be able to stand on it is hard
Did
enough.
you just stand on it? Yeah.
Because we had a balance beam in the basement for my sister to practice on, and it was barely, it wasn't really like above the ground, like it was just simulated a balance beam, so it's pretty much on the ground. And it's different. It's hard for me because I wear a size 18 shoe, so for me to stand on the balance beam is
Damn.
extremely difficult. So me trying to stand on this thing, I'm like, I don't know how anybody stands up and this thing doesn't fall off immediately. Like, this is crazy. So no, the what gymnasts are able to accomplish is amazing. I have the greatest respect for them. So I have a question for you because of your
Okay.
gymnastics background.
Oh, okay.
I want you, and this is
I got space
kind.
here. You want me to? You want me to tumble? Is
No,
that what you want?
no. You only have to use your mind for this one.
Okay,
So
good, good.
we are going to, because here in the original Jeek podcast, we combine the sports world and the geek world. So I want you to build me a gymnastics team out of the MCU.
A
Build me
gymnastics
build me a
team.
film. So I need you to give me which female in the MCU that you would put on the balance beam, the uneven bars, the vault, and the floor exercise.
Oh shoot. Okay, so uh first off, we're gonna start with a coach. We're gonna have
Oh, before you go, each of those four plus who wins the all around.
who wins the all around. Okay, well, okay, I'll save the all around for last. I know who wins it automatically.
Okay, so
So
the coach.
Natasha Romanoff is the coach, and co-host, co-assistant coach is going to be her successor, played by Florence Pugh. What's her name?
Oh, Yelena.
Yelena Belova. Yeah.
Yes.
So those are your coaches right there. Then on the balance beam, let's see, who are you going to have on the balance beam? I think you could put a Miss Marvel on the balance beam. I think she'd get those big arms out there. Get them. Hey,
Okay.
would you knock it off, you crazy mutt? So we'll get her on the balance beam, and then the vault was the other one that you said.
Yeah. So the balance beam you got. I need the vault, the uneven bars, and the floor exercise, and then
Uh,
all around.
so are we supposing that Shuri is going to be taking the place of T'Challa in the next Black Panther?
That's my
is that
supposition.
the assumption? Then
That's
we're
my
okay.
assumption. I mean, it happened in the book, so why not in the movie?
So we're gonna put Shuri on the vault.
Okay.
I think, but in the suit, because I don't know if her athleticism, without the suit, is like
Is
enough
enough. Makes
to
sense.
compensate for, because she's like real tech minded, right?
Yeah.
So she's on the vault, Miss Marvel on the balance beam. What other ones did you say? You said
Uneven bars and the floor
uneven bars.
exercise.
So the uneven bars is going to be this little gender swapping here. We're going to put Peter Parker, Spider-Man. We're going to throw him
Okay.
on the unevens. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious why we do that. Let's
Yeah,
see
makes sense.
who's got a flair for the. I mean, we could go Captain Marvel, but she's not like wonderfully agile.
Yeah.
I think who we'll put on the floor routine is we'll put Gamora on the floor routine, because
That's a good pick.
she's learning to dance with Quill. She's kind of figuring out rhythm. Yeah, she's an alien, but I think she could do well on the floor routine. And then, unfortunately, the only fellow that I picked is going to win it overall, just because I think Spider-Man is the most nimble. He's although I don't know if he's got quite the rhythm for. Never mind, I take that back. He does, because when he swings, he's very rhythmic
He's got to have
in
rhythm to
his
swing.
swings. So I think
Yeah.
Spider-Man takes the all around and stands atop the podium.
Okay. All right. I can dig that. I can dig that team. Okay.
Yeah, and
Now,
I would love to.
I thought you were going to have Natasha be on the team. Like, I was kind of surprised you went to have her
No,
as the coach.
you see, and I was going to put her on the beam, but then I thought, you know what? Natasha is a spy. She works in the shadows. She's more covert than the rest. So she is just
true.
she's going to stand at the back and she's going to give her best to the competitors there, I think.
Okay.
And then it'd be fun to watch her kind of berate a young, very blushable Peter Parker
Yeah.
and, just tease him or whatever she's going
Yeah.
to do to him.
What are you doing? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That would be fun. Okay.
yeah, I think that's my Olympic MCU team. I'd like to get maybe throw Steve Rogers on some deadlift, some Olympic powerlifting or
I could,
something.
if we were did a men's team, Steve would definitely do the high bar. Like, that would be
Okay.
his thing.
Okay.
I could definitely see Steve doing the high bar, that or doing the rings, because he would just be like really flexing and really just showing off doing the rings.
Where would you put the Hulk? Where would you put Banner in Hulk form? And we're talking Professor Hulk here, not Rain.
I would put
Oh,
Professor
both.
Hulk. I would put Professor Hulk
Okay.
on the pommel horse.
Okay. Okay.
I think that would look pretty cool.
It would look pretty cool. Where would you put the original Hulk?
I think he's so destructive. Like, I can't see him.
You think he'd do sumo? You think he could?
If I was going to put him in any Olympic sport,
Yeah. We'll just go out of gymnastics now.
yeah. If I was putting him in any Olympic sport, then it would probably be sumo. Like, I can't. Yeah, like, there's no one stopping him.
It'd have to be.
It
You could let him run around the ring too. You wouldn't put him in like a Winter Olympic triathlon or something, or like what's the one with the shooting? Where you do that'd be Winter Soldier or Rocket.
That would be That would probably be better Winter Soldier, because I don't think Rocket, the skiing part.
Oh right, he's got little legs. Yeah,
he's the little legs. But if I had to go just for the comedic value, then I would put Hulk in speed skating, because that's just not going to.
What about figure skating, huh? Just put him in all the
surprise
skating.
everybody with the grace, but the speed skating would just drive him nuts. He would be like Dan Jansen and just like be ahead and then just fall and lose and be like,
Yeah, he'd be on his side around the corners easy.
That, or I would put Hulk on like the curling team, like with like the Thing. I would like all these strong guys on the curling team, so they're just sitting there sweeping, they're trying to guide these boulders down the ice. That would be fun.
Speaking of the Thing, you saw D23, Matt Shackman, director of WandaVision, was cast as director for Fantastic Four, right?
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
It's exciting. I'm
excited about it. I was excited about John Watts, but
I just need a good cast and I need a good story. That's all I need.
Did you see the one, the doctored one online that had Seth Rogen as the Thing?
I did not, and I'm glad I did not. The Fantastic Four needs to be a home run. There have been so many tragic fails. We need a home run with Fantastic Four.
I agree.
I agree. Gotta have it. But because we are pressed for time for you here, I'm going to switch gears now, and we're going to talk Thor: Love and Thunder. So before we get into it, give me your rating of this movie out of 6.
Out of 6, okay, that's an interesting scale. 6, I'd say I'd put it. It's between a 4 and a 5 for me. Like,
okay.
it's at the upper end, and I've got a real problem with the MCU movies in that the rewatchability of them is so small for me. Like, I love watching them the first time, even the second time. I love taking them in and catching all the small details. But the rewatch value, and I think this one definitely falls into that where I'm going to have a hard time going back to it and just rewatching it for fun,
For fun.
But I think, between 4 and 5, it was good. The characters were fun. More of that stuff from Thor Ragnarok carried over. There were some things that didn't really hit for me,
Hmm.
but I think it's a top 10 Marvel. I think it could be top 10, top 15 easy.
Okay, so you're going 4.5. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
How about you? What do you think?
I give it. I It's tough. And I explain why it's tough because I enjoyed it. I had fun, but
Hmm.
I know part of the reason why is because the other Phase 4 films were not as good as the Phase 3 or Phase 2 films or Phase 1 films.
Definitely
So
less cohesive.
and low on the cohesiveness, and also just we're talking about Phase 4 films being Shang-Chi, which was good. But we're talking Multiverse of Madness. We're talking the Eternals, which was not good. Um, so we're where before pretty much every movie, if it, it didn't have every movie wasn't a home run, but it was at least a B, or
Right.
except for Dark World, every film pretty much was at least a B. You know,
Right, right,
so
right.
when you've got like a C, a D and a C minus and some stuff sprinkled in there, it's it's easier to enjoy what's not an A and kind of rank it higher than you would against some other ones. So
Right.
going objectively, I would have to put it at like either 3.5 or a 4.
Okay.
I would say probably more to a 3.5.
Okay. So closer to that
Because
middle
yeah,
ground.
closer to that middle ground. Because like you said about the rewatchability, this movie does not really have rewatchability for me. The only rewatchability would be because I saw it by myself. Like my wife and kids haven't seen it yet, so I would rewatch it with them. But I, it's not Black Panther. It's not Civil War. It's not Winter Soldier. It's not one that I'm gonna say, you know what, I feel like watching a superhero movie. I'm gonna press play on this. It's not one of those. Um, I like the comedic, and I think Thor is better when he's got a good amount of comedy into it.
Agreed.
Dark World was too serious, and that was part of its fault.
Hmm.
Where Ragnarok, Thor 1, Ragnarok, and Love and Thunder were definitely more comedic. A little over comedic in my opinion in this last one.
Could be too comedic.
Too
Yeah.
comedic, yeah, a bit too comedic. Um, but it was fun. It was enjoyable. It was enjoyable.
Hmm.
All right, so here, listeners, is the official spoiler warning. So from this point on, we are going to talk spoilers. So if you have not seen Love and Thunder, press pause here, go to Disney Plus, watch it, and then come back and listen to the rest of what myself and Dustin have to say about Thor, Love, and Thunder. So if you
Let's
keep
go.
listening, you have been warned. All right. So
That's a good spoiler warning, man.
thank you. So beginning of the movie, I was not surprised, but pleasantly surprised to see the Guardians. I was not expecting them to be in this film, and to be pretty much within the first 5 minutes, pretty consistently. I thought was interesting just to talk about what Thor had been going through over the time frame of his adventures with the Guardians, and it actually left me wanting more of that. I want to see
Right.
more of what those Thor and the Guardians adventures look like, because I'm afraid we're not going to get it in the last Guardians movie. So,
Oh, yeah, you're right. Probably not.
so my thing is, they went off together. They had a bunch of great adventures that were probably better than this movie off screen
That we didn't see.
that
Yeah.
we don't get to see. And, like, now, if they make an animated version or something like that where they do some voiceover and I get to see some of those adventures, that would be really cool. But I'm afraid those adventures we didn't see are actually better than this adventure.
Yeah. The what if there's space for definite like what if episodes as well. Not to mention they came back 10 years later and did a Black Widow film that preceded Civil War. So I mean, who's to say what they're going to do? But yeah, I would have liked to see more of it as well. And one thing I heard, I don't know if you listen to Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin on Fat Man Beyond at all.
I do.
Anyway, I think it was them. Maybe it was them. Maybe it was some other guys on the internet. I don't know. They were talking about how like you keep ratcheting things up, and you ratchet a thing up in Thor Ragnarok, and it's pretty funny. And you gotta kind of dial it up again in Thor Love and Thunder. And so when you're at a point where you are having the lovable, affable Chris Pratt's Peter Quill as the straight man for your comedic Thor, like you can't go much further than that. And so I think in that way, maybe they've gone too far.
It's a possibility. It was entertaining though.
I liked it too.
They did a good job, and it was entertaining. Like I said, it left me wanting more. After that, Thor and Korg going off, on their own, going back to Asgard, which it was okay.
I like that they included more Korg in this one.
Yes. And I think
Korg's always good.
Korg's always entertaining. And then, Jane and her, her cancer situation. If I don't know if it's just me, but I think it felt just really rushed, like pushed in.
It did. It did.
And even though I expected it because I've read the books, I know what happens. For a person who doesn't know the story, it's going to really feel like, wow, how did we get here?
Where'd this come from?
Yeah, where did all this come from? And partially, obviously that's on Disney's fault and Portman as far as not being able to, agree as far as bringing Jane back. And Jane probably should have been around for Ragnarok, and they could have led more into, her health deteriorating and things of that nature, or something to lead to her health deteriorating, to getting the cancer.
In my head canon, I will make so many excuses for Marvel, even when they probably shouldn't be excused for some of the things that they do. Because I'm just I'm a fan. I like the stuff.
Yeah.
So in my head, it's like when she wasn't there in Age of Ultron, hanging out when Tony and Thor were having kind of the pissing match about their girlfriends or whatever.
Right.
Like in my head, that's why, is because she was dealing with some shit. She was kind of figuring out what was going on with her health. And so whether that's a good thing or bad thing that I make these excuses for this multi-million-dollar corporation.
But it ties things together, and honestly, look, that's what we fans do.
Yeah.
Right,
fans, exactly. Yeah,
as fans, we try to fix holes that we see, and we make a little excuse here and there. It happens. It's all
just a little slight stretching is all. That's not a big deal.
No.
But I did like that they did it. Yeah, it did feel a little bit rushed. It would have been nice if there were some mentions about, she's got some doctor stuff going on, or she's having some health issues, just like off to the side in one of the other movies. But, like you said, contract negotiations and things like that at the time were unknown. So
now I will give Marvel this. They did a great job on the visual fake out in that scene where she's getting her cancer treatment and talking to the kid. I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed that the way they framed the shot, they made it look like she's sitting next to this kid on an airplane and he's reading her book. And then as the shot,
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, then as the shot changes, you realize that they're in the hospital and
she's getting chemo. Yeah,
then she's getting her chemo, and then Darcy shows up and and talks to her. But at first, it looks like they're on an airplane and that she's just sitting next to an airplane and he's happy to read her book. So that I was like, okay, all right, Marvel, that was well done. Like you did a great job faking out, and surprising people that. You think, oh, she's just on a plane and she's going somewhere, but then it's like, oh, whoa, no, she's not. she's getting
She's
treatment
dying.
and she's
Hey.
got stage 4, and it's not good.
So sorry about these
No,
dogs. They're
it's all
just
good. No, trust me, I've had guests, kids have been in the background. Dogs is no problem.
okay, okay, okay.
It's all good.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. That's the route they went. And I know it's a precedent set by the comics and everything, but it was still cool to see someone else, become Thor. And it was cool to see everyone get riled up and pissed off about it too.
Well, see,
Like,
here's the problem I have. We didn't get to see her become Thor.
true.
That really I was like, hold up, because when she gets to Asgard, and we see her standing by the bits of Mjolnir, and we see it moving, and we see it being drawn to her, and then we cut away, and we go back to
Oh,
Thor.
we don't get to see the transformation, is what you
Right,
mean. We don't
exactly.
get to
We
see
don't get to
the.
see we don't get to see the
Gotcha.
transformation, and I think we were robbed of that. Like, I wanted to see, because one, I didn't know what if Mjolnir was going to, like, how it was going to work, because Mjolnir is shattered. So when
Right.
I see the pieces moving, okay, I'm like, okay, cool, it's drawn to her, and then we go to another scene, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to come back to her, and we're going to see Jane try to open this thing, or beg Valkyrie to let her get into it and explain, like, hey, I'm sick. I feel Mjolnir calling to me. Like, can you help me? Or her trying to circumvent. Obviously Valkyrie says no. She tries to get around it, and somehow she gets
Maybe
her hand
fight the
inside.
guards.
Right, but somehow she gets her hand, or she goes to, like, the now, and then this is me just making fixing things. I think, but no, I think it would have been cool to see that portion, because I think she would have done something like, hey, she would have gone to, like, the Matt Damon and the Lesser Hemsworth actors and been like, why don't you suggest that you use Mjolnir in your next performance, and since I'm Jane, I'll play Jane. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then they get it, and then that's how she gets her hands on Mjolnir, and then and then it fixes itself, and she becomes Thor, and then during mid play she becomes Thor, and everyone's like, and they think it's part of the performance, but it's not. It's her becoming
Right.
Thor right in front of their eyes and whatever. But what we got was Thor showing up in the middle of a fight, and then we see Mjolnir getting thrown around, and then she catches it, and he's like, "Who are you?" Like, that's not the reveal I wanted.
So these are all very valid criticisms that you have of the reveal of the mighty Thor. Um, but how cool was it that Mjolnir split apart and was like buckshot
That was
through
cool.
that was so cool. I was like, a hand over my, oh my god, and just what did it?
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
you
very cool.
stop it, Taika Waititi. That's too good.
That I was not expecting that. That
Yeah,
was
that was
very
really
cool.
pretty sweet.
Yeah, to make
But
that
that,
an added feature of Mjolnir's ability and attacks, like, that was
right.
really cool.
But
I was
again, that's
digging
just
that.
me apologizing for Marvel. I'm like, hey, be easy on Marvel, Matt. Come on. Why don't you just take it a little easy on them, please?
No, I criticize them because I love them so much.
It's
That's just
true. That's true. That's
that's
true
true. I
as well.
criticize because I love it so much. It's but no, it was that part was really fun. But, like, I just wish the reveal could have been better.
A little more bombastic.
Yes, and honestly, if you gave me that review as a post credit scene or a mid credit scene, it would have been better. I just wanted to see it. I want to see Jane actually receiving that power. And I think that's, as far as for the female representation, I think that's important, to see the
Yeah.
woman receiving the power,
Right,
not
right.
just it happening off screen. So
Sure. And here at the end of at the one of the post credit scenes when she goes to meet Heimdall in Valhalla
Valhalla, yeah.
after she's died, um we find out that there's a very very real afterlife in the MCU. And so whether that's whatever faith you're subscribing to or whatever it is, um she's somewhere in the MCU, so we still may get a more maybe meaningful Thor transformation from her at some point. I don't know, depending on
No,
if the money
it's
flows
the
or
money's
whatnot.
right, and
Right,
that's
yeah.
the thing, and that's the thing. About Marvel and dipping into She-Hulk a little bit more. Um, in one of the She-Hulk comics, they they talk about how many times like people dying and coming back all the time. They're like, yeah, like She-Hulk's like, yeah, and like I'm like one of and Pug, who's on her legal team in the comic, he's like, and they're like, hey, Jennifer Walters has died and come back, and Pug is like, really? She's like, yeah, twice. Like it's no big deal. And then and then in this law case, she's like, you know, all everyone here remembers when Thanos snapped and killed half of the universe. She's like, who in this room died and came back? And like half, every half of everybody raises their hand. And it's like this is a normal thing. People die, they come back. It's no big deal. She has Sting on the stand talking about all the times he's died, like it's having breakfast. Like it's no big deal. So even though the MCU has not been big on bringing anybody back except for Loki from death, um, everyone knows it's a Marvel thing. Everyone knows it's superhero worlds. No one stays dead forever. And
Do you Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, and you're just like, so the possibility of Jane coming back, Heimdall coming back, anybody that's died, including Iron Man, obviously, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is going to come back, but I believe Iron Man as a character eventually, Tony Stark will come back in some way. No one's going to be gone for good because no one stays dead in comics.
Right.
It's how it is. You can't stay
So
dead and keep telling these stories around these characters.
So, do you think that I mean, obviously, you and I are there as fans of the medium, of the source material in general, um, of the movies. But do you think that like general audiences are there where they can accept and suspend their disbelief for long enough to go, okay, this character's dead, but there is an opportunity that they come back? Like, do you think as a
That's
society,
a good
10,
question.
12 10, 12, 14 years of these movies are regular people that are going to see these things, are they ready for that kind of suspension of disbelief?
That's a really good question. Um, I'm going to say no,
Okay.
and I think that's why so many characters have died and stayed dead because the average viewer of MCU films are not comic fans. The average viewer are people who are riding this bandwagon, for lack of a better term, riding this wave of superhero movies that have become popular culture, and where 20. I mean, we go back to '89. Batman was a huge film, but it was still a geek film. It was still a nerd film. It wasn't a everybody movie. Um,
Right.
it was for a particular audience. The
Hmm.
only superhero movie that was really an everybody movie was the Christopher Reeve Superman movies,
Right.
and they were significantly cheesier and significantly less on source material for that reason, because they were made more for everybody's consumption than they were to any of really the source material. They
Right.
changed so much. So these movies, these comic book movies in general, have been made for comic book audiences. But now that you have comic book movies becoming more of main popular culture, now you have all these people who didn't read comics and didn't watch, the Spider-Man, Fox Kids show, or the Batman the animated series, or the X-Men, Fox series. They didn't grow up watching that stuff. All they know is a little bit here and there from other
Right.
popular culture, and they're watching this thing, and to them, action adventure movies, which is essentially what these are for them, people die and stay dead. They're not
Right.
used to people dying and then next week, oh look, they're back for because someone snapped their fingers or some gem brought this back, or you know, they went back in time and brought them back. Like they're that's not what
Exactly.
that's not what they're used to. And outside of um, some select sci-fi, you know, honestly the only I think the biggest franchise that killed somebody off and brought them back like that would have been Star Trek with Spock's death and bringing him back. But other than that, you don't have big characters dying and coming back. I can't think of I can't think
I
of
can't
any,
think of it. Not in popular media
not in
anyway.
popular
No.
culture. Yeah, and even though Star Trek is a big franchise, it's still a nerd thing. It's still
Right.
not primary popular culture. But even that was huge for 83 to 85 with Wrath of Khan, 82 to 84 with Wrath of Khan in the Search for Spock. Like that was huge. So yeah, I think this most people just can't deal with that because it's just not something they're used to. They can't imagine James Bond dying and just coming back, which is going to be a big thing since they did kill him in this last one.
Right.
Which I was surprised. I'm like, wow, they actually killed Bond. Wow, they killed him. Okay, but generally he doesn't die because how can you bring this guy back? Well, they're going to do it.
Matt, I think there's been so many parts of this conversation that I just wanted to break off and have had like separate conversations about like the death of a monoculture and whether the James Bond cinematic universe is going to stop or restart or start in a different way or whatever.
That is exactly what this show does, which I'm glad you're loving because we go everywhere.
It's I feel so bad because I'm like, I know he wanted to talk about Thor: Love and Thunder, but he's making my brain whir. So I just it's gotta come out here when it goes on up here. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what we want on this show. That's what makes these conversations great.
Good.
Because it keeps us wanting to keep talking about these different things. So, table those because we will definitely revisit them.
Hell yeah!
But yeah, so like it's. I think that just because you really don't see that in other franchises or other forms of media, when somebody's dead, they're dead. When a show is dead, it's pretty much dead. Firefly fans have been begging for Firefly to come back in some way.
Forget them. Forget those Firefly.
Hey man, I'm a huge Firefly fan. Don't diss my Firefly.
I knew you were because the crossover between Firefly and Doctor Who is like a straight line, man. I know. I feel that in my soul. I have friends that are into it.
Just because I'm a sci-fi nerd, but yeah, that's a great question. That's why I think it's just that people are not accustomed to seeing that in popular culture, so it will be hard for them to grasp through storytelling because they're not used to that type of storytelling. Comic book fans are used to that type of storytelling, where most people who consume television and movies are not accustomed to characters being killed off and brought back, and through all the same stories.
To jump us back onto Thor: Love and Thunder, one of my biggest excitements about the MCU, one of the reasons I love it the most is because it's so interconnected.
Yes.
What do you think after Thor: Love and Thunder is over? What do you think the big pillars of universe expansion were that came from that movie? What do you think the big jumping off points, the threads left hanging, the new characters or concepts that were introduced, a la Eternals? There's now a giant hand sticking out of the sea with the celestial or whatever. Like, what big concepts were introduced in Thor: Love and Thunder that you think could carry over into the MCU at large?
One thing that is really big to me is that is the existence of all the other gods. And
yes.
Because again, comic book fans know that in the Marvel universe, everybody's religion is real. So, I did not think they were going to show that. I did not expect.
It's a bold move.
That was a turn I did not expect. Them mentioning, Quetzalcoatl and you just listing off Zeus and all these other gods, and then going to see them, and then seeing and seeing Zeus. And I've never been like a big Russell Crowe fan, but him and Zeus was absolutely hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny when he held his little skirt and came down the stairs. That was too good.
That was hilarious, and everything with the Thunderbolt and and that was just top notch comedy.
Just ready for the orgy.
It's like, no, you were not invited to the orgy. Like, and the thing is, like, the parent in me would be like, really? But then but then the comic nerd and also the the Greek mythology knowledge I have is like, yeah, okay, Zeus would be having the orgy. Duh. Like this is exactly within
Right.
Zeus's. This is Zeus, and I'm thinking now because my kids are a little older. They're in middle school. They're preteens and teens. Like they've gone to school. They've learned Greek mythology. They know about Zeus and his orgies. Like this is not going to be anything shocking to them. It should they
Their
watch this
classmates
movie.
have talked to them about what orgies are.
Exactly. Like this is
Yeah,
something they've heard in the hallways at school. This is not going to shock them.
exactly.
So like this everything that happened there was completely on brand.
It was. It was so good.
To even making to giving us naked view of Hemsworth from behind. Like it was completely on brand for
That
what you
dude
would
just makes me feel inadequate as a man. Good Lord, he is burly.
You know what's funny?
He's ripped out of his mind.
He is. Hemsworth is jacked. But you know who I feel bad for? I feel bad for his older brother, who I call Lesser Hemsworth.
Is that Liam?
No, Liam's his younger brother.
He's got another brother?
Yeah, I was about to say, did you ask if you knew? You didn't know.
No.
Okay, so they have an older brother. So, this is why I feel bad for him. One, he's not ugly, but he doesn't look as good as they do.
He's not Hemsworth handsome though.
Right. So, he is. So he plays the actor that plays Thor in those Asgardian plays.
What?
Yes, that's him. That's their older brother. He's also in Westworld. He plays.
Okay, I haven't even started Westworld yet, so chill on that.
Lesser Helmsworth is in Westworld.
I gotta watch it though. I think I'd really like that one. It's on my list.
I just finished season 4. I liked the first two seasons. 3 and 4 went off the rails for me, but he's in that show and he does a good job in that show. But he doesn't look. He's not as handsome as they are. Chris Hemsworth is like 6'2", 6'3". Liam is like 6'1", 6'2". Lesser Helmsworth is 5'9". It's like your younger brothers are better looking than you, taller than you, got more muscles than you, and they're significant, and they just and you're 5'9".
They're by and far leagues more famous than you are.
Right. Everybody knows who they are. They've been in big time films, and no one knows who you are.
Poor Big Brother Hemsworth. I'll tell you.
I feel so bad for this guy.
Don't feel bad for him.
He's if I had to compare,
fine.
But when you compare yourself to Chris Hemsworth, I would feel bad for him the most in doing that comparison because he is of that lineage. He's like, he should have more of that.
You have that stock in your soup, man. You just didn't mix it or some shit.
Exactly. It's like everything skipped over him, and his parents like, hold on, we mixed it better this time. First time failed. Second time's a charm. Third time's a charm. First time, we messed up on that one. It's like,
dang.
Yeah, but a lot of people just don't know he exists.
I didn't know he existed.
Yeah, because
poor guy.
Exactly. But but the Thor naked scene was completely on brand. Korg, Korg and Valkyrie and Tessa Thompson. I love Tessa Thompson. She's fantastic. And she's also in Westworld, by the way. So if you like Tessa Thompson, definitely watch Westworld.
Okay. I gotta say, I like Drunk Valkyrie more. From Thor Ragnarok, Drunk Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I liked her a little bit more than King Valkyrie, just because, I don't know, drunk people are funny. It's a standard classic trope, I guess.
It is. It would have been funny to see, the dude version of Thor and Drunk Valkyrie interacting. That would have been some other.
Oh, from What If? Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, but Endgame version of Thor, Fat Thor,
yeah. He was fat depressed Thor though. I don't know if he'd be fun or if he'd just like cry.
No, but that was from he was supposed to be like the dude from Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski, yeah.
So that Big Lebowski version of Thor would have been great with Drunk Valkyrie. Like that would have been
that's probably true. Yeah,
that would have been really funny to have just as a short. There's a 5-minute short between the dude version of Thor and Drunk Valkyrie. Just
Oh, and what's his name? The dude from the Thor shorts. His roommate, Daryl. Did you ever watch the Thor shorts? There's like
no.
Thor has a roommate in an apartment, and his name's like Daryl or Darren or something. And he's just really annoyed because Thor doesn't know Earth customs and know how to pay bills or wash dishes or whatever. He needs to go get a job, but instead he's just, leaving his hammer on the toilet and stuff
Right.
like that. And he got a job as a tour guide in New Asgard in Thor: Love and Thunder. So
Oh,
it's,
okay.
it's pretty cool little Easter egg
No,
there.
I'll have to check that out. That's entertaining. Okay. All right. So and to wrap up because we're getting low on time for you. What did you think of Christian Bale as Gore?
I loved it with a asterisk. I liked his characterization of Gore. I liked how he was kind of evil, kind of funny. Um the part I was excited about the most is I haven't read the comics with Gore. I don't know anything about the king above all or whatever the symbiote thing is.
Mm-hmm.
But I had read and I had heard that his sword, the Necro sword that he uses, has a tie to the symbiote hive mind in some way or shape or form in the comics. And
Correct.
so I was excited that they're finally doing it. They're finally tying Venom into all this. I know it's separate companies. It's a lot of legal issues. Tonally, they're very different.
Yeah.
But now that there's symbiote in the MCU that Hardy left behind,
Right.
like, are we going to finally get, that aspect of the MCU in the MCU? And we didn't. It was just a sword, just a magic sword. And
Right. Yeah.
it was fine, but it could have been so much
It could have
more.
been more.
And there again, retroactively, they can retcon it later and be like, well, actually that sword, was part of the hive mind that this guy that's, messing up New York right now back on that planet, and they could tie it all together. But I did like Christian Bale's portrayal. I liked his motivations. I liked it when he killed that first god in the desert after his daughter had just died. And it seemed very,
It felt real.
yeah, it felt like his motivations were very, very good. And I liked that his character was redeemed at the end. And you and I, we can talk about it at some other time, Matt, because I'd like to have more conversations with you about this stuff. But that's one of the biggest problems I have with the MCU is that bad guys are killed or redeemed. They never run
just
off,
bad guys.
shake their fist and say, "You'll rue the day when you hear from me again," and they leave. So
Right.
it's always a one shot and done with a bad guy. And maybe with Doctor Doom, hopefully with Doctor Doom, we see more of that.
Well,
I'll see you again.
The only one we didn't get, and that's because they made it look like he died, was Killmonger, which to me, I can't say he's dead for sure. One, because everybody comes back, and two, all T'Challa needed to do was take a Kamoyo bead and put it in that hole and seal it up and take him inside and get him fixed up. So
it could be. We just saw him slump over. He didn't take a pulse. We didn't see the flat line. Nothing.
Exactly. He could definitely still be alive. And then after what they did for Ross, getting shot in the spine, bro, telling me he can't survive, especially since he had the heart-shaped herb. He still had the power from the heart-shaped herb. It's not like
Correct.
It's not like he wasn't depowered.
No,
So
his suit just came apart, got stabbed, and then
so he's got the suit
he's
on,
still the Black Panther.
But he still has the power of the Black Panther. So you can't tell me he's dead from that.
They could bring him back.
You could definitely bring him back. But to focus on Bale, I thought him as Gore fit what they portrayed him as. And as a father of 4 girls, I definitely was feeling him as far as like
felt that.
I felt it. And
yeah.
I'm not the biggest Christian Bale fan, but it was 100% believable. Like if that happened to me, I'd have gone Gore's path too. I may not have gone. Well, the sword corrupted him, but I definitely would have been like, "Oh, you're gonna die for this." I've been praying
at
to
least
you.
at least that first guy for sure.
Oh yeah, the first guy for sure. I've been praying to you. I've been loyal to you. All I asked was you to help, save my daughter. You could have taken me. I just save my kid, and you couldn't be bothered to do that, bruh. That he'd have definitely got it. Like it was.
You,
Like I was cheering for him. I was like, "Go ahead, Gore. You slice him up, man."
I did like that they redeemed him. I also really enjoyed I can't remember what it was called at the end when, they were all seeking eternity. Is that what it was?
Yes, Eternity. Yes,
Eternity. And then the little girl.
Great, by the way, as a comic book fan,
so cool.
It looked great, and the
It's
design,
like that 2D, 3D.
Well, that's how he's drawn in the books, so that's why.
That's so cool.
And because he's really featured in the Infinity Gauntlet, and eventually Thanos becomes Eternity, but like that's exactly the shape and everything. Like they didn't change Eternity at all, and it was perfect. I loved that.
So cool. And that's another aspect that I'm excited that they've again introduced into the toy box of the MCU, and now they have that character and they have that mythos that they can play with in all the other ones.
Absolutely. And I'll close with a question for you on this. And
okay.
Obviously, because you don't have a lot of time. Gore got his wish because he got to Eternity. Does Thor and Jane have a wish pending because they were also there before Eternity?
I don't think they made it super clear in the movie whether it was like a one wish. This is the only one person who gets there gets a wish, or if it's like every person that gets there gets a wish.
Yeah, they didn't make it clear. So to me, it's like
is there a little wish monster?
Yeah, the way it sounded was you get before Eternity, you get a wish. Not only one person in your group or one person gets the wish. It's you get there, you get a wish. He got there, she got there.
Yeah,
I'd have been like, Eternity, make her live forever, bro.
Okay, dude, Matt, you just predicted a moment that's coming in the MCU. You just you called it right here on this episode. You have told your audience that at some point, maybe it's 10 years down the road, whatever, but at some point there's going to be an adventure, and that little girl who's now Eternity is going to be hanging out with people, and something really bad's going to happen, and some character is just nonchalantly going to, I wish we could have done this way or something. Boom, it'll happen because she's there. And either they realize it or they don't.
Or what will happen is she will say to Thor, Daddy, why don't you, or Uncle Thor, why don't you wish for this? And he'll say it, and then all of a sudden it happens because he had that wish pending.
She's going to be a major plot point later in the MCU. Yeah, you've got to be. You got me thinking.
You can't introduce her and not have her be important in the future.
Yeah, some cosmic deity, and then all of a sudden she's just a little girl sidekick. No, she's shooting lasers out of her eyes. She's going to be important. This is going to be great. You've made me very excited for these next phases.
Me too. Well, that everyone is going to conclude this episode of the original Jeek podcast that we came to create to bless your earballs. Again, I am your host, the original Jeek, Rockin' Mr. Magic. And I want to thank again my guest, Dustin Poindexter, for joining me in this wonderful conversation we had. And we cannot do this show alone, not without you, Jeeks, who continue to support us. So please continue to rate and review the show on your podcasting app of choice. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, CastBox, and more. And if you can't find us, let us know at jeeknation@gmail.com or message us directly on Facebook at Jeek Nation. And until next time, peace.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
This is DJ What, and you're listening to the original Jeek podcast.